Right now is South Carolina Senator and Judiciary Committee Chairman Lindsey Graham. Senator, it's great to have you this morning. Thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So this is just one issue that you and I have spoken about in the past, that people in South Carolina are making more money staying home than they are at work. But there are other issues as well. I want to get your take on first assessing the PPP, this paycheck program from the Small Business Administration. How are things going, Senator?
It's getting better. There are more loans going out the door. It's a good program. The goal of the program is to keep small businesses from going bankrupt because they're having to be shut down to deal with mitigation. Restaurants, bars, gyms, all kind of places are shut down because people can't show up in large numbers. And the forgiveness comes if the employer borrows the money and keeps people on the payroll. The goal of the program, for forgiveness sakes, is to keep people from going on unemployment. Here's the problem. In South Carolina, you're getting $23 an hour to be unemployed. A lot of these businesses pay $15 and $16 an hour to their employees. So that there's a tension there that's undercutting the purpose of the program, which is to keep people on the payroll, and we got to deal with that.
Yes, I know that, and that's one issue, but there's another issue as well, because the whole idea of giving a small business, and this is what I keep railing about, I've been talking about this for a week, this 8-week period where a small business borrows the money, they get the money. In order to get that loan forgiven, they've got to send much of that money out the door and send it to their employees so that the employee stays on the payroll. That's great for the employee, but that's not going to stop the company from going bankrupt, Senator. They're still there with the bills that they need to pay and no revenue coming in. So if the paycheck program could move the timeline, whereas you start the clock ticking on that 8-week period when we're out of a shutdown, I think it would probably be doable for some businesses and keep them alive. Not now, though, not in this 8-week period while they're still shut down.
Well, let's unpack that. That's a really good point. Under the law, 75% of the loan has to be given to pay payroll. Well, a lot of places like New York, the rent and all the business expenses are probably more than 25%. So that 75-25 needs to be revisited. But the goal is to keep the company from going bankrupt, and while they're shut down, for the company to pay the employees so they don't have to go on unemployment. Well, the problem is unemployment pays people more than they actually make. So you're having people not stay on the payroll but draw unemployment benefits, which may make it hard for the employer to get forgiveness if he can't retain 75% of his employees. So the unemployment system is undercutting the SBA loan program.
Exactly. So what do you want to do about that? I mean, I know that there is conversation now about the additional money going into the program because the money is already running out. Look, you've got to, look at the Small Business Administration and recognize that they gave out $23 billion one year, and now they're expected to give out $350 billion in 3 weeks. So I get that. But what kind of changes will we see, Senator?
Right. Okay, number one, I want to look at changing the 75-25 split so that businesses can have more money to pay their business expenses. Number two, I want to make sure that we do not incentivize people to leave the payroll to go into unemployment. The goal of this program is to keep people off the unemployment rolls. The third thing is I want to make sure the money's going to Main Street, not to people who really are well off or taking advantage of the program. I think more of the money should go through community banks. We have about 3,500 banks now that are participating in this program. And what I worry about is pretty solvent businesses seeing an opportunity to get $10 million free from the federal government. So I want to focus on Main Street, the small business, and have more community bank lending instead of the big banks. So that's another thing I worry about.
So are you doing hearings on this? How will you actually move the needle on making these changes? Everything you say, I've heard the same exact thing from small businesses, Senator.
Yeah. Well, one, this has been a good program, but the whole purpose was to keep the business from going bankrupt and having people on a payroll rather than unemployment. The unemployment system was never envisioned to be more generous than staying on the payroll. We got to fix that. We can't do that for 4 more months because we're going to add people to the unemployment rolls. You may have an incentive here in the unemployment benefits taking people out of the workforce larger than the virus itself. We've got to make sure the money's going to small businesses, not people who are pretty well off. And we've got to change the 75-25 so the person doesn't lose their business. If you don't do those 3 things, this program cannot be to its highest and best use.
Because it didn't start out so smooth, did it?
Well, but, Mnuchin's done a good job. I mean, he did a good job. I mean, we're talking about 20% of the country being unemployed. You can't get through to the unemployment agencies. My state has processed 180,000 unemployment claims. You're having businesses dump their employees into unemployment. They keep paying their health insurance. No system was ever set up to run this way. So this small business program is designed to keep people out of unemployment, and I think is being undercut by the benefit schedule.
Yeah. Let me ask you about this. The Senate adjourned yesterday without either party attempting to pass the stalled coronavirus aid bill for the second time. The meeting lasted approximately 30 seconds, delaying and until at least Thursday. What happened?
Yeah. Well, I think we see the need to put more money into the small business loan program. It's being highly utilized, but I want to make sure that the money's being lent to the people who need it the most. We need to revisit the 75-25 split to make sure people have enough money to pay the bills. And again, we need to reform the unemployment system. I want to put more money into the program. Democrats want to put more money into hospitals and state government coffers. The real emergency is that the small business loan program is running out of money. We should do that first with some reform. But people keep asking me, when is it going to get better? It's never going to go back to normal until we get a vaccine and drug therapies. I think 2020 is going to be a lost summer for tourism purposes. I can't imagine Myrtle Beach receiving much of tourism this summer. I think college football, I hope we can play, but you're going to have a lot of empty stands. So we need to get these programs right because this problem is going to be with us for most of 2020.